According to the World Health Organization, over 5% of the world's population, 430 million people, suffer from hearing loss. 80% of them are in developing countries. It's also estimated that this number will double in the next 30 years. It's also stated that in developing countries, children with hearing loss and deafness often do not receive schooling. Adults also have a higher unemployment rate.
Sign language can be considered as the most primarily means of human communication. If someone travels to any foreign country, ignoring their language completely, he can easily find a way to make signs to at least drink water, eat food, and get a place to sleep. It's used as a communication medium between hard-hearing people and their societies. It can be characterized as a visual language, which is described as the motion of some parts of the body, like hand gestures, facial expressions, and lip movements. There are more than 300 different sign languages in use around the world. Similar to spoken languages, they are not universal and vary from region to region, but they are relatively under-resourced. This language is a complete natural language that has its own vocabulary and linguistic properties. Moreover, some countries may have several sign languages in the same way as having several dialects of a spoken language.
Arabic is the fourth largest spoken language in the world. For Arab nations, Arabic Sign Language is the official sign language for speech and hearing disabled. It was formally introduced in 2001 by the Arab Federation of the Deaf. However, the Arabic language is one of the major languages around the world, but it is still in its developmental stages. Probably the biggest issue that encounter Arabic Sign Language is diglossia. Actually, in every nation, the regional dialect is spoken instead of writing language. In this manner, different spoken dialects made different Arabic Sign Languages. Since its outbreak 2 years ago, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected educational systems worldwide. Most governments decided to temporarily close educational institutions in an attempt to reduce the spread of COVID, which have forced institutions to rapidly change and adopt innovative approaches to provide remote instruction as effectively as possible, and the schools for the deaf are no exception. So nowadays, the need for an automated system for the deaf and the mute to be able to communicate with their peers remotely has become necessary.
With the advances in computer vision and machine learning, different digital aid systems have been developed to automatically recognize, synthesize, and translate sign languages. We got inspired to develop an online platform for the deaf and the mute to learn online as well as to communicate with vocal people. This is a step to overcome the unfamiliarity with sign language and raise society's awareness. The student can easily enjoy the features the platform provides, start his journey to connect with others, and feel more confident to learn despite all the obstacles.
Qorb is an e-learning platform that focuses on finding a solution for deaf students who find difficulties in online learning. We are interested in exploring pain points for deaf students, especially during COVID-19 crisis. We interviewed some experts about deaf students to find their need and pain points in online learning. After conducting our research, we found this key finding. To facilitate the learning process, we should use explaining icons and photos for each action on our platform. One of the e-learning platforms provides Arabic Sign Language Translator, so we should work on creating Arabic Sign Language Translator on our platform. The platform is divided into separate pages. Home page contains information about the platform. Login system. User can log in as student or teacher. For teacher has his own profile. He can update his profile, host meeting, create courses, add materials, student, and reports to the course, and create quizzes for students. During the session, he can express himself in Arabic Sign Language, and our model will translate it so the teacher and his colleagues can understand. For the student also has his own profile, and he can update it. He also can join the courses he wants and access its material.
To implement the website interface, we use the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. For the backend functionality, we use the Django framework with PostgreSQL to store the database. We will use Azure to build the stream, the Django REST framework to build a machine learning API, and React.js to consume the API. Let's see the database schema so far.
Most of the previous studies in Arabic Sign Language recognition have undertaken to record their own Arabic datasets. Unfortunately, many of these datasets are still not publicly available or contain either few signs or enough signs which are related to a certain country. So we decided to build our own dataset. We did this under the supervision of a sign language expert in order to ensure that the recorded signs fully conform to the Arabic Sign Language dictionary. Then we started recording our dataset. We arranged with our colleagues, and there were about 80 volunteers. Each volunteer performed 50 signs, 5 times each. To avoid the specific restrictions that can't be available during the deployment of the trained model, there were no restrictions while recording. No standard for camera configuration, room lighting, background, or the distance from the camera. The performers didn't need to wear specific uniforms or take off any accessories. We started filtering the data to make sure that the signs are correct, and after the filtration, the collected data was about 17,000 videos. The next step was data pre-processing to make the data ready to train our model. The first stage is to extract the frames from videos and resize them. Second stage is to convert the frames to grayscale and apply some filters like dilation, erosion, and blur in order to be ready to extract the most obvious movement in the next stage, which is background subtraction. Third stage is to apply background subtraction method, which subtract every 2 consecutive frames to delete the movement. Fourth stage is to uniform the frames sequence numbers. Last stage is to combine every 4 consecutive frames into one frame to make the model more efficient and faster. There are different approaches to perform video classification. In early fusion, the temporal dimension and the channel dimension of the video are fused at the start before passing it to the model, which allows the first layer to operate over frames and learn to identify local pixel motions between adjacent frames. The idea in this approach is to use convolutional networks to extract local features of each frame. The outputs of these independent convolutional networks are fed to many-to-one multi-layer LSTM network to fuse this extracted information temporarily. This approach uses a 3D convolutional network that allows you to process temporal and spatial information. The drawback with this approach is the tremendous computational and memory requirements.
Facial expression emotion recognition is an intuitive reflection of a person's mental state, which contains rich emotional information. It can report on student status, satisfaction, and interaction during the lecture. Using this feature will help the lecturer gain insights and improve the performance and the interaction of students. We used a dataset from Kaggle. Then we created our model architecture and compared it to several pre-trained models such as AlexNet VG16 and ResNet 50. According to the results, we used our proposed model. The model architecture consists of 4 blocks. Each block contains 2 convolutional layers and mesh normalization, 1 max pooling layer, 2 dropout layers, then 3 fully connected layers.
If people have been called the forgotten victims of the pandemic, understanding the challenges that the student faced during the COVID-19 period is of paramount importance to the deaf community, and how the student shifted from classroom learning to online distance learning in a very short time. So, they found online distance learning a challenge. They missed seeing their instructor in the screen. So, the main purpose in our platform is to eliminate this gap and make it possible for any student to catch up with his colleges in education.